Here we go again, and again, and again. Us Manchester United fans learned nothing new from that 3-0 defeat to Bournemouth, but for Ruben Amorim, it was another expensive lesson. There's a few things we seriously need to talk about, so let me waste no time in explaining them. We've all seen this movie before. We know that this squad is weak, but it's not easy enough to just say, get rid of this squad, get new players in, and the problems will be solved. We've all learned that isn't going to be, in isolation, the solution to Manchester United. Let me run through exactly what I mean in this very festive 5 things we learned from that game. And number 1 on the list is, of course, we are consistently inconsistent. I mean, this last week sums up Manchester United to a T. All right? Going from 1-0 down to win 2-1 in the 88th and the 90th minute away against City. To then follow that up with that game against Spurs, which was utter chaos, but at 3-0 down, we actually showed something as a collective. And you go, oh, maybe there is something new about this United team. Oh, never mind. You go and do that at home against Bournemouth. It's peak United. We've all seen it so many times. But it does not mean that I want to see Amorim, change your system, go to a 4-3-3, drop this player, drop that player, that will solve it. Amorim said this after Ipswich. And it is going to be completely true after every single game.
We have 2 ways. Or we forget about the new idea, and I think that's why I was brought here in the middle of the season, and we try to cope with the things that I used to do it, and next year in the same stage we'll be here with the same problems. Or we start now, we risk a little bit, we suffer a little bit, and
you know that's true. And you know what, right? Everyone keeps saying to United fans have got to be more patient. I think the reason a lot of United fans have lost patience is over these years we've all been told about how we need our club to rebuild, but we've been served up 4 different cold rebuilds, so many false dawns. That's why the patience runs thin. And when you see repeated problems like we saw against Bournemouth, wow, that's where the frustrations come to the surface. And that's number 2 on my list, because the mental fragility of this United team is, wow. I don't know how to describe it anymore. I tried to speak about this in my live show this morning. And I honestly feel that with the platform that we've got and built here on United People's TV, I feel like I need to do a video on this in itself. Because the pressures of playing for United, there are external pressures, and I'll speak about those, and there are internal pressures. And you just see this United team crumble in so many ways, especially in game. Now, the external pressure, you know, what us fans do to increase pressures because of the expectations that come with playing for Manchester United. A lot of that's not because of us, it's because of what our football club has done in the last 20, 30 years, prior to the last 10. Internally, there's a lot coming from Ineos now. Correct pressure, ambitious pressure. But the players themselves in game, all right? Quote there from Amorim. We need to maintain the calm when you suffer a goal. Whether it's Spurs conceding after, how many times this season have we conceded early in halves? Or in the last year, however long, however big a pool of games you want to use for this, the same logic applies, all right? Spurs conceding one soon after the start of the second half, conceding another after 6 minutes, conceding a penalty there against Bournemouth, and then conceding another one 2 minutes later. We do not control games from an emotional perspective. And this is where I do feel that Bruno Fernandes' criticism is fair. And that's where he can be questioned. Because I think Bruno is, and people are going to probably try and clip this out. Man, I'm someone who defends Bruno more than anyone else to the point where I get criticised for it. But Bruno is somebody who always has played the game with his heart on his sleeve. And when you do that and you use emotions as a strength, they are a strength. But when they're not, and you get in situations like this where in-game scenarios that you can coach and help these players to a certain degree, but ultimately it has to come from the players. And this is what I mean about the anxiety and the pressure of United. I thought it was a really good sort of suggestion here. They're saying, I'd love to see Amorim asked about what he thinks on how Old Trafford sounds when Onana's playing out from the back with the ball. And this is what Amorim said in response.
Work on that, fight on that. We know that is a big challenge, really tough for our supporters, and you can feel it when we start the game. We already are anxious. Everybody in the stadium, you can feel in the first pass, in the first goal kick. So we know it's really tough on them.
It does feel that there's an anxiety at Old Trafford whenever Onana's on the ball. whenever we're trying to play out from the back because of what we've seen. And that does transcend to the players. Now, as professionals, they have to deal partly with that, absorb it. You're the paid professional in that environment. I'm not saying it's as simple as that. You're a professional. You can cope with it. But this is the problem that Amorim somehow has to fix at United. And I don't think it's as simple as recruiting players. And because if you recruit players into a bad environment, then you create more players. Like Onana, who was a better player before he came to United, so confident with the ball at his feet. He's not lost the ability to distribute the ball. He's playing in a team that still doesn't know how to do it. And that creates this vicious cycle. And I'm going to speak about player quality next. But if I'm looking at somebody who's actually come through all the adversity to the point where I think he can be a role model for others, I'm looking at Harry Maguire. And this has come from someone who's criticised him more than anybody else. But I am going to speak about the quality of the players next. I'm going to focus on the wing-backs because, wait, man, we desperately need wing-backs. It's an absolute given, all right? And I could use Malacia in this example. I could use Luke Shaw in this example. I can use Diogo Dalot in this example. Or anybody else, I don't know who is an actual wing-back, full-back at our squad. Mazraoui is not really. I'd rather see him probably play as one of the centre-backs, right-sided or left-sided. We need full-backs. For the Amorim system to work, there needs to be an overhaul. If there's going to be one position in this squad where there is a proper overhaul, it's at fullback. Luke Shaw needs to go in the summer. Malacia, I hope he stays fit and then he moves on and he continues his career elsewhere, but I don't think it'll be at United. Dalot, I'm going to be getting rid of probably a few players ahead of him in terms of the wing-back positions, but I don't think he's technically strong enough. From an athletic perspective, he is, but I don't think technically he is. We need more quality. And it's not just there, by the way. Of course, it's in attack, because it would be nice if United could actually score goals. I mean, how long have we been saying this now? Look at that stat. Second consecutive game where United have had 20 or more shots. We've lost both of them. All right? And whether it's Xerxes, you want to have a go at. Whether it's Højlund, you want to have a go at. United don't have that lethal clinical finisher. And it's not just about one individual finisher, by the way. It's about finishing. Bruno, Garnacho, Højlund, Xerxes, others in that game. You saw it from Bournemouth. Obviously, it was a clinical penalty, but Semenyo, the headed finish, take your chances. You'll win games of football. It's that simple. And when you're missing that many, it doesn't really matter what you do. You're not going to be winning games. But number 5 on my list is, look, I genuinely do think that Amorim's coaching and improving these players is only going to go so far, right? Set pieces, I mean, what can I say about set pieces I haven't already said a million times before? What can I say about the mental fragility of these United players that I haven't already said before? And this is a squad where only 7 players existed before Erik ten Hag. So many of these players are new, and they all look like they were bought by the same manager. They've all played for this club at the exact same amount of time. They all have the same problems. It's like, I say it so often, but players are product of their environment. So new signings are becoming products of the environment right now, where these players mentally struggle so much with adversity in game that the pressures internally and externally clearly affect them more than the average Premier League player. And I don't know how Amorim fixes it. Will recruitment help it? Yes. Bringing in new players who aren't scarred by being a United player. That will help. But it's not as simple as to say new signings resolve it. It's not as simple as to say, oh, we need to rebuild from the bottom up. And truth be told, ladies and gents, I don't actually know what the solution is anymore. Whatever it is, though, it's a long one. And I think we all agree on that.